Hi guys, it's Mrs. Miranda. Welcome back to Clarinet and Alto Saxophone class. This week's Google Classroom lesson is going to focus on reviewing and learning all of the parts of the clarinet first and then the alto saxophone next. You guys can watch the whole thing though, so you know both of them. And then we're going to watch a video that shows you how to open up the case, put the instrument together, put your reed on, the ligature on, the whole thing. The reason we're doing that is because we're getting ready next week to start our lessons again where we are using instruments. And I want to make sure that even those of you who played before, that you really remember all the parts in the assembly. And some of you who have never played before, this is even more important because this is your introduction to all the parts of your instrument, how they're going to fit together, because we want to get everybody playing as well as possible, as soon as possible. And we don't want any broken keys or instruments, okay? So when you go into your Google Classroom lesson, you're going to see a diagram for all the parts of the clarinet. You're also going to see one for all of the parts of the alto saxophone, whichever one is your instrument for this year. If you have a printer, you could print that out, but don't stress if you don't have a printer, no worries. You could just take this diagram and make your own drawing of it. This is not an art lesson, it's a music lesson. So if you're thinking to yourself, Miss Miranda, I cannot draw that saxophone like that, that's okay. Just do your best. You're just going to draw a drawing. It does not have to have all those little detailed keys, but do make some keys on it. Make the bell, make all the parts of the mouthpiece, make a little ligature. The reason that you want to draw a little sketch of it is so that you can label all the parts. Doing that, drawing it and writing all the names of the parts, is going to help lock it into your brain. And that's the reason we're doing it, not for art's sake. But if you are an artist and you like art, then you can really go for it and get all the details and try to decorate it as nicely as you can with different colors and things. You can make your saxophone gold, you can make your clarinet black with silver keys, however you like to do it, okay? Same thing here with the clarinet. Just make sure that you either print out one and write those names next to it or draw your own little drawing and write all those names so you can lock those into your memory. Next week, we're going to start working with our instruments. This week, we're going to do one last class without instruments, but next week, we're going to start having people with their instruments, and it's going to be super important, especially because we're all doing this from home over the computer, that you are familiar, at least somewhat, with your instrument and the names of all those parts. Because if I'm telling you something and I'm telling you over the computer, hopefully maybe some of you have an adult nearby who can help you out if you have any questions or you get confused. But since I won't be there in person with you, it's really important that you take the time this week to familiarize yourself a little bit with all these parts of the instrument and then how those parts are going to go together. We're going to watch a video right now together of how to assemble your clarinet, and then after that we're going to watch one about the saxophone. After we're done watching both of those lessons together, that will be the end of the video lesson, and then you can go back into the Google Classroom, check out your diagrams of the clarinet or the saxophone, and then what I would love you to do to submit to me your assignment, it's not hard this week, is just upload for me a picture of either your printout of all the parts or your own little drawing, okay? All right, let's go ahead and watch these videos about how to assemble the clarinet first and then the alto.
Let's start by learning how to open the case. I know it sounds silly, but every year I watch an instrument tumble to the floor when a student opens the case upside down.
The latches should be facing you when you open the case, and generally there's a brand logo on top of the case so you know that the case is upright. Always open the case slowly. In the event the case is upside down, you'll have the opportunity to catch it before the parts fall to the floor.
Let's start by identifying all the parts of a clarinet.
Starting from top to bottom, we will begin with the mouthpiece assembly. The mouthpiece assembly is comprised of 4 pieces: the mouthpiece itself, the reed, the ligature which holds the reed to the mouthpiece, and the mouthpiece cap.
Some of them don't
Next,
have a cap.
we have the
That's
barrel.
okay.
Then we have the upper joint, which is the smaller of the 2 large pieces. The lower joint attaches to the upper joint.
They're just taking the pieces
And
out to
finally,
show
the
you.
last piece of the instrument is called
You don't have
the
to take
bell.
all the pieces out when you get yours. You just leave them in the case until you put it together.
There is no right or wrong order in which to assemble a clarinet. However, from my years as an educator, I found what I believe is the best way. Before we begin, we need to moisten the reed tip. Place the tip of the reed in your mouth, being careful as the reed is fragile. Keep the reed in your mouth as we move on to the next step. Never attempt to assemble a new clarinet without using cork grease.
When assembling the pieces, use a slight twisting motion back and forth. Never force the pieces together, and never push against a surface like your leg or table when assembling the parts. I always start by twisting the mouthpiece onto the barrel. One side of the barrel is much larger than the other, and the mouthpiece will only fit properly on one side, which is the smaller side.
The reason I do this is by attaching the mouthpiece to the barrel, it gives you something to hold on to when assembling the rest of the mouthpiece. It also lets you assemble the barrel and mouthpiece to the upper joint without the risk of twisting the ligature or reed off the mouthpiece.
The flat part of the reed sits on the flat face of the mouthpiece.
I'm going to show you guys a trick later on for saxophones and clarinets. On these videos, they're going to show you to put the reed on first and then put the ligature on over the reed. I'm going to show you a way to put the ligature on first and then slide the reed in so you won't chip the ends of your reeds. But for now, the way that they're showing you is fine to start out with, just as long as you're careful with your reeds.
The tip of the reed should sit just a smidgen below the tip of the mouthpiece. When looking at the face of the mouthpiece, you should see only a sliver of the tip of the mouthpiece over the tip of the reed. Using my thumb to hold the reed in place, I slide the ligature over the reed and mouthpiece. The screws of the ligature should face to the right. Once the ligature is in place, again, check the alignment of the reed on the mouthpiece. It should be perfect, and if it's not, now is the time to make small adjustments to make sure it's perfect. Once you're comfortable with the alignment, tighten the 2 screws to secure the reed in place. We will now assemble the remaining parts of the clarinet from top to bottom. Twist the barrel with the mouthpiece onto the upper joint. The reed should line up with the back of the upper joint, which has just one hole. Next, we will attach the lower joint to the upper joint. However, we need to be very careful when we do this. There's a bridge key, which is a mechanical linkage between the upper and lower joint. Improperly assembling these 2 pieces can cause significant damage to the instrument. When assembling these 2 pieces, it's important to press the middle hole of the upper joint. This will cause the upper bridge key to lift, allowing the lower bridge key to go underneath it. The holes in the upper joint and the lower joint should be lined up, and only a slight back and forth twisting motion should be used to put these 2 pieces together. Over-twisting in either direction will cause keys from the lower and upper joints to collide with one another, possibly bending the keys and damaging the instrument. Lastly, the bell should be twisted onto the bottom of the lower joint, and your instrument is now fully assembled. Always protect your reed by using the mouthpiece cap when you are not playing the instrument.
Some ears, again, will have a mouthpiece cap and some of them don't. That's okay. He's just saying you could use the mouthpiece cap if you're like between songs or something, but I would not recommend putting away your clarinet with the cap still on there and the reed still on there. You actually want to take off the reed, put it in its reed case, and clean out the mouthpiece and all the different pieces when you put your instruments away, okay? So we will go over that once we all have our instruments together. And now I'm going to show you a little video on how to put together your alto saxophone.
This is Troy Roberts. Today we're going to talk about how to assemble the alto saxophone. First and foremost, you want to get this neck strap in place. Next, you want to put the reed on the mouthpiece.
Same thing. They're doing the reed first.
The reed
I'm going to
is
show
held to
you
the
another way to put the ligature
ligature
first later.
So we place the reed on the mouthpiece thusly. So we've got a set up mouthpiece. Next, we want to put the mouthpiece onto the neck. Now, some people will have a thicker cork than this, in which case you'd use cork grease. Very easy to purchase, and most horns come with it. So get some grease on that cork, and then the mouthpiece will fit nicely. Next, we want to put this neck and mouthpiece onto the body of the saxophone. So you want to get the body of the saxophone, attach it to your neck strap. So you got a hand free here and a hand free here. Make sure this is unscrewed.
Don't
so
unscrew
the neck
it all the way,
fits
just a
in
little bit so it's loose enough to
snugly,
fit in.
and tighten it when you've got everything the way you want it. And that's how to assemble the alto saxophone.
You guys will be playing as awesome as that guy in no time. All right, so we watched our videos together. You guys are going to go back and you're either going to print out and label yourselves your picture of the alto saxophone or the clarinet, or you're going to draw your own. You're going to take a little picture of you and your printout or your drawing, and you're going to upload it on Google Classroom. That'll show me that you're getting ready to go for our live class. Okay, don't forget, when we have our live class, you just come back to the Google Classroom at your class time and you click on that Google Meet link at the top of the Google Classroom for clarinet and alto saxophone. Thank you guys. I will see you soon. Bye.